class, abilities, age, culture, gender, and sexuality in the South. They work to build and to sustain and to connect a Southern regional base of LGBTQ people in order to transform the region through strategic projects and campaigns developed in response to the current conditions of our communities. Song builds this movement through leadership development, coalition and alliance building, intersectional analysis, and organizing. And we know they some badass organizers over at Song, right? So Mary Hooks, though, I'm really proud and honored to call this beautiful human being a dear friend, is a 38-year-old Black lesbian feminist mother, organizer, and co-director of Song. Mary joined Song as a member in 2009 and began organizing in 2010. Her commitment to Black liberation, which encompasses the liberation of Black LGBTQ folks, is rooted in her experiences growing up under the impacts of the war on drugs. Her people are migrants of the Great Migration, factory workers, church folks, Black women, hustlers, addicts, dykes, studs, femmes, queens, and all people fighting for the liberation of oppressed people. Her mandate, the mandate to avenge the suffering of our ancestors, to earn the respect of future generations, and to be transformed in the service of the work. As Mary Hooks always tells us, good people, let's get free, y'all. So I want to turn this amazing virtual space over to my homie, the amazing, beautiful, fantastic Mary Hooks. Mad love. Welcome to Justice Now.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. Can y'all hear me all right? Yeah, let's. Uh, well, just to put context so you all know what vibe I'm sitting in, I'm on my front porch right now, upstairs. And it's about, I don't know where everybody at that's listening in, but it's a good 70-degree fall day in Atlanta. So it's delicious right now, to say the least. And I still have just another sip of my morning coffee. So I'll get to enjoy that with y'all while we talk a little bit. And I was grappling with this. I'm like, yo, what do I have to say for 45 minutes, But I think, when you've been in the work, over a significant amount of time, there is always something to offer our people. And so I want to, just use the discernment that I think has been the most sacred ingredient that I've been in superpower, to be able to fill this space, and be able to pour into those who decided to come and sit with each other, pour into to each other. But before I get started, I want to start with this, a libation. That this is a libation that is recited every morning at my kid's school, Porter Lee, who just turned 8, by the way. Yes, honey, an 8-year-old. But it's recited every morning. And so I would invite those, to just carve out some silent space, if you will. And I'll read it. And after every line, you should say Ashe. But yes, let's have this verbal libation. O ancestors, Ashe. Blacker than the skies at midnight, Ashe. Brighter than the noonday sun, Ashe. And all the beautiful shades of Africa in between, Ashe. Field hands, house servants, factory workers, sex workers, preachers, teachers, freedom fighters, Ashe. Those who resisted in silence, Ashe. Those who resisted out loud, Ashe. Those whose bones are on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, Ashe. Those who chose to survive, Ashe. Great ancient priests, warriors, and mystic scientists, Ashe. Give us the inspiration to fight 1,000 lions, Ashe. Give us the enlightenment to unravel the mysteries of the universe, Ashe. Give us the sustenance to travel through the trackless swamps of disharmony, Ashe. Praise be your Black African names, Ashe. Help us in our time of need, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Mm, 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 mm. Well, friends, I'm just what I feel deeply compelled to talk about is some of the lessons that I've been able to harvest in my time as an organizer and as a member and leader inside of Southerners on New Ground, which has been my political home. For those who may have been on the witnessed the panel yesterday, I talked, briefly about the way in which I came into movement, and song has always been my political home and literally shaped me as an organizer and as a political actor and a political worker. And I'm so grateful for song, and it was song that allowed me to, well, actually Paris was my first connect to Spark, but then song we had opportunities over the years to build work with each other, which has always been a gift. But one of the things that my first lesson I'll say that when I joined Song, and I remember sitting down with Paulina. She came to Paulina Helm Hernandez, who her and Caitlin Breedlove were the co-directors before I took on the role. And they served this organization for about 10, 11 years. And I remember sitting with Paulina in my living room, and I had just came onto staff full time. And she said to me, she said, "How you doing? How you feeling?" And I was like, scared, scared. And she said, "Well, good, because if it didn't scare you, I'd be concerned that you didn't realize the magnitude of what is being asked of you and what is asked of us as political workers trying to get free." And I think I've always held that as a realization that how sacred the work is. And I'll come back to that point. But it's also in that conversation that she reminded me, because I had to ask, "Why you asking me to do this again?" Just, you could change your mind. One of the things she said is that you have good discernment and good instinct, and I have to be, I like to give honor and credit where it's due, particularly in this moment when I named that to the Black women, Black church mothers in particular, who cultivated something in me when I was in my teenage years, excuse me. And it was in those days that, and I didn't call it organizing then at the time, but it was certainly, but if I were to call it that, I would say that they were teaching me how to organize for white Jesus. And, with all things, you take the best and leave the rest. And one of the things that has stayed with me, one of the things that has stayed with me is to listen to that, to my gut, and listen to, and not be afraid to name it and to share it and to be vulnerable in speaking what's on my heart and what I feel deep down in my belly. And those are some of the things that that instinct and desire and will to move when spirit says so. And again, not because everything comes out perfect or because, I always have the right answer. Lord, most of the times I have the wrong one. Let's just be honest. But what it does, what it has done is kept me on my toes as an organizer, and has given me the courage and willingness to fall forward, um, realizing that every opportunity that we seize to get a little bit closer to freedom is um, is worthy of the fight and worthy of the vulnerability. And so I'm deeply grateful in the beginning of my time coming into organizing that that was one of the values and superpowers that folks saw in me. Um, and I have to admit, there have been times where, I struggle like I would hope most humans do who's carrying this water of liberation, always question myself. Um, and it's not as easy as sometimes I think people perceive it to be. But Lord knows that it's an instinct and discernment that has gotten me out of some hard times. And it has also, you know, manifested beautiful work. And the other lesson I bring is one that I hold very dear, especially as someone who is raising a little human in this time. Again, my Portalese, she just turned 8 years old. It's so funny because every year she'll, like, the night before her birthday or a few days leading up to it, even though she's counting down the days of when her birthday is coming, but she will always say, "Oh, I don't want to be 8." When I remember she was 3, she was like, "I don't want to be 4." Um, but one of the things I think is so sweet and precious about mothering while being in this movement is that it makes me um, turn up the volume, if you will, on having the right assessment to say what to say yes to and what to say no to. And I think that part of that is because there's much sacrifice that comes with doing this work. And, and we don't, and those who talk about it and those who we watch and witness each other um, make the sacrifices that must be done, is because we know and are clear that our struggle um, comes with sacrifice, and liberation work comes with sacrifice. And I feel like it is one of my core responsibilities is to ensure that uh, the fights we choose, the struggles that we wage, is worthy of the sacrifice that I am making, because oftentimes um, that comes at the expense, or it comes with Porter also having to make sacrifices. And a friend of mine years ago, Aaron, told me, "Mary, when a woman carries um, a daughter, um, a daughter when she's pregnant, you must realize that you're carrying two generations inside of you. You have deep influence on the other generation that you are also birthing." And that has uh, remained in my bones, sometimes in a chilling way, the level of responsibility that requires and has required. And I also feel super grateful for the sacrifices of the full village that Porter is raised up inside of. And I would be remiss if I didn't name Taliba Abuya, who has been a co-parent with me um, and have raised Porter, in addition to Porter's father, Brian Payne, and the countless aunties and uncles and Song Fam. And, Monica came to the hospital when Porter was born and sung to her. Um, but just a lot of beautiful political family and friends who have helped, um, who also had been in sacrifice with me as well. But I think that the lesson to be garnered is that we have to think about and always interrogate the fights we choose, um, the ones we don't choose, in order for us to be be accountable for the sacrifices that come with picking a fight for our liberation. And this third lesson is one that I think that um, I go back and forth with, and I think it's because I've been around 38 years, and I've had different highs and lows in my life, in my roaring 20s, and all the things. But one of the things that I feel like, whether it be inside of my house and the folks I reside in my village, or inside of the work and the comrades that come together to choose, because we're choosing when we join organization, we're choosing each other in a lot of ways to to stand shoulder to shoulder with one another, and to make and to take risks together. And it's so important that care and tenderness goes a long way in this movement, y'all. Care and tenderness, and the care that we take for ourselves, the care that we extend to other people, um, the care that we extend to young people and elders, the care that we extend to anyone who says, I am showing up to get on the freedom train. And we all are equally deserving of that collective care. And it shouldn't be something that happens in silos. I was grateful yesterday that there were a few folks who came and sat outside and gathered around the fire and played cards as a way to collectively care for each other. Um, and tenderness, which I think can never be underestimated. And sometimes I believe it is, and we must be careful um, about the ways we use tenderness not to manipulate or try to um, undermine, but seeing tenderness as essential to restoring our humanity toward one another. And I think that I have been shown much tenderness, even though I would say one of my mentors, Kaila Mumbabaro, I would remember when she was training us up, and she would be interrogating my politic, my decisions, my choices, um, um, all the things, and often would sometimes bring me to tears, and not in a vindictive or way, but what I believe she was doing was challenging me, and uh, even in the way in which she did it, um, that's the way in which I um, wasn't afraid to challenge myself. Um, and I think that it also built a tender resilience in me, if that makes sense. But I feel like that has been medicine, the tenderness that is so critical. And much of it I learned while being inside of song. I saw the way and was taught the ways in which we bring the alchemy to create space together, the way we make sure that folks can get to and fro without having to struggle. We ain't always got it right, y'all. Y'all know. And I think we've always have been taught how to be intentional about being tender and caring and showing our people how much we love them and we love each other. And that is something that over the years, just straight up and down, I've seen us struggle with in movement and in our organizations and in formations. And I say this from a bird's eye view, where I know much of the, as we call them, plagues inside of song has, impacted many organizations. And unfortunately, we've seen, the left continue to lose formations because we have not mastered our ability to be tender, even in struggle, or to be tender even when we have disagreement. And I do think it calls us to be to remind ourselves that when we choose liberation work, we make the choice to put the we before the I. And sometimes that's really hard to say in a time where um, in a time the where we're grappling with our internal lies, individualism, and how capitalism um, consciously or unconsciously teaches us that. But I think what is always helpful is to remember and remind ourselves that we all are in the process of transformation, myself included. I have my blind spots, y'all, and many of us, you know, might do a better job at others than showing it, but we all do. And we must remember that those who show up to put the hand on the plow are also people who have decided to stand shoulder to shoulder with us. And for that reason alone, we should extend care and tenderness like never before. I think another lesson that has also deeply shaped the way in which, I've spent my time organizing, and I'm so appreciative of Song who and the Song elders and different ones who cultivated a organizational culture where, in as much as we realize and know that our work is sacred, we also don't take ourselves so seriously. Um, and Mama Ruby Sells often talks about, um, you can't have a faint heart in doing this work, and that particularly over the last few years when we've had this surge in this iteration of the Black liberation movement, and so many more people getting into formation, joining existing organizations, starting new organizations, that Mama Ruby would tell me, she said, Mary, be careful, because when folks come down from the freedom high of being in protest and waging righteous fights, oftentimes that have been stirred by our anger at the state, that many people will burn out, that many people, won't make the journey or will decide to turn back. And this isn't to shade anyone who has had to make that decision. And I think that one of the things that could be helpful in minimizing our people from turning back could potentially be we not take ourselves so serious. And I think that we do that in many ways. And we have a tradition inside of Song where folks know you gonna get pranked because it's fun, and not in like a harmful or mean spirited way. I'm sure if there are some songsters on here, they would love to talk about the way they pulled a really good prank on Kate Shapiro and I last summer at Gaycation. And it's in the spirit of being able to be playful and have fun with each other that we also know that those times are so sacred, because we wake up every day to a world who would rather see us die, that would rather see us fail and give up, who, depending on where you sit, know that the risk of stepping outside your door could be a potential death trap, as Black trans women are experiencing this on a daily. And so, because we know the the heinousness of our conditions and the deep um, the deep hate, real talk, that our opposition has for us, I think that when we have an opportunity to bring about joy, to sing, to dance with each other, y'all know we like a little dance party. We love some strippers. Um, that to embed joy into our organizing, not just amongst us, but also in ways in which we show up to our work. That also, and another nugget Mama Ruby often says is, what are we going to do to show Black people that we love them? What are we going to do to show Black people that we love them? And that must be a part of the way in which we do our work. And sometimes it is about bringing humor. Sometimes it is about um, bringing song and joy and art. But we have so many tools at our disposal. But it's less about the tools than it is about the spirit and the manner in which we do our work and in the way in which we serve. And again, being joyful and playful and having a good time does not mean we do not take our work serious. It's a serious liberation business that we own. You know what I mean? And um, we have to still find time to be human in front of each other. And I think that it's been one of the gifts of movement, that I can, in as much as I can count the hard days, the hard conflicts, the hard contradictions and tensions that we have yet to resolve, whether that be inside of song and broader movement. There are much tensions that must be resolved and contradictions that we must raise and also decide which ones are priority. But it does not take away from the fact that if we don't create the magic of building and connecting through joy and laughter, that we're going to have a harder time unpacking those contradictions. We're going to have a harder time building with one another. And so I believe that that is part of one of the gifts of Southern organizing that we always have to offer. And we spoke about this a little yesterday in the panel about as the South goes, so goes the nation. And they were a beautiful, beautiful panel. Tony Michelle, Holiday Simmons, um, Kay out of New York, and I'm missing somebody else. But there are some beautiful examples in the ways in which folks bring our full selves to this work in service to our people, in service to transformative organizing that I believe are some hearty ways that, you know, we must honor those traditions and honor the ways in which we organize and be together. And I know that we are living in a completely different time. If 2020 didn't show us that we are in a different moment, um, we are. And there are some things that we cannot afford to let go of. And so whatever tools that we have to bring each other closer, um, whatever tools that we have to build the level of intimacy and vulnerability, whatever tools we have to um, be bold and unwavering, we must bring it to bear. Even if you think it's a ridiculous idea, even if you think that, um, you know, no one's gonna decide on your idea, it must be brought to bear. A lot of the work that song has done over the years, I would say that it took us years to see the manifestations of seeds planted. It took years. Um, and so the instant gratification that comes with the idea being put out and the instant implementation may not happen, but be willing to put it out there anyway. Somebody might pick it up later on, you know, but that is something that we owe ourselves and owe each other if we intend to make the journey and make the journey together. Because the African proverb says if we want to go fast, we go alone. But if we want to go far, we go together. And as movement builders and folk who understand that our power is in our ability to not just have us in numbers, but our ability to decide which way forward and make decisions together and not always agree, but always choosing the we over the I. And so I want to move to my last lesson, which I think um, is one of the most important. And one is that there's several, there's several, but this one here, I feel like it's the one that has has been a game changer for me. And I learned about the importance of self-crit through my mentor, one of my mentors, Kaila Mumbabaro, um, and other seasoned organizers that poured into me. And the ideal of self-criticism being essential to our ability to be able to be shaped, to be molded, to be transformed in the service of the work. And when we in, invite self criticism as a way to um, be honest and evaluate ourselves, our work, our collective work, that it takes away the responsibility of other people to always be doing that for you. And it requires a deep level of self-awareness and being honest to yourself. And I think that as someone who has been inside of leadership for a long and of song for a while, that I have I don't take that responsibility lightly. To and sometimes it comes with a little angst, if you will, if that's the right word, because I'm always in deep criticism and assessment of myself. Always checking hooks. Is this your ego? Hooks. Is this your ego? You know, got to have those conversations with yourself and be willing to articulate that vocally to the comrades again that you are shoulder to shoulder with. And I want to name that. Naming it is also important because sometimes, real talk, like the social media and all the things, it gives us a, um, a sort of misperception of who we are to each other, um, that can be difficult to navigate. And, sometimes it becomes an echo chamber of everybody who talks like you, who thinks like you. And that's not helpful. That's not helpful to our growth. That's not helpful to our movements. That's not great helpful toward our creativity. And so, and I say that because um, I know that I'd have asked myself, what the little blue thing on my Facebook mean by my name? And then somebody said, that means celebrities get that. And I feel like some people conflate when we talk about movement, celebrity, visibility, with that. And I'm clear that one of my roles, not my primary, but one of my roles is to be a spokesperson inside of Song and the Movement for Black Lives. That's an assignment that I have been given, and I think that oftentimes um, gives the impression that one is not accountable, and that's not always the case. And I think that um, the practice of criticism is a way in which we stay honest to ourselves as leaders, and sometimes that's hard to say as leaders. you know, like, oh, don't call me a leader. And I think we should interrogate why we have this. And I'll speak for myself. Why sometimes I be like, no, 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 that ain't me, you know, um, and to deny the work that I have been a part of, um, because as somebody told me, leaders are people who do work. Leaders are people who do work, and so I can own that. I do political work, and so yes, I am a leader. But I also think that more to it than that, because there's a level of visibility that has come with that. That there's a level of responsibility, to be in accountable relationships. And I'm grateful. Lord knows I'm grateful, um, for Aisha, Rashid, and Wendy Moore O'Neill, and Daleen Davenport, and Jillian Brando, and Jade Brooks, and Shahida Jones, and um, Carlin Rushing, and so many other people, um, who even when they like, oh God, let me tell Hook something, but are willing to give me a grounded assessment. And I feel like if we can continue to embody the practice of self-crit, and if I too, I'm saying us, if I also continue to do that, that not only will we have um, have the space to grow as people, as leaders, as workers, as humans, as just trying to get free and give ourselves permission to grow and transform and be redeemed, even when we do ridiculous things. Um, and I think it's important to name too that in self critique also must go hand in hand with celebration and an honoring and a witnessing of each other, a witnessing of the good works that our people do, that our people sacrifice to do, a witnessing of folks having the courage to step into leadership. I remember when I when I was asked to 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 step into the seat of co-directorship inside of Song, uh, I was very reluctant because that's not what I wanted to do. Real talk. And I also have been trained up that the primary question isn't what do you want to do for movement. The primary question should be what is movement asking of me, and what can I do to create more space to be in right relationship with the assignment that movement has put before me. And so I think that part of what it means to own that is to celebrate and honor. And so I just want to celebrate and honor the folk who have poured into my life, poured into my leadership, the folk who I've been able to walk alongside with inside of this work, and the blessing of Southern organizing and knowing that my political family extends, um, you know, outside of song. There's so many other formations and so much work that my life is made more freer because of. Um, and I cannot be on here and not shout out all of the organizers and political workers here in Georgia that has shifted the political conditions and terrain that we will and keep fighting on. And I'm super grateful for their leadership and generations of work um, that has brought us to this moment, like the work of Shirley Sherrod uh, down in Albany, and the ways in which they have cultivated not only physical land um, and land trust, but also the way in which they have tilled the soil of possibility to make movements and to make work and to make um, leadership a, a possibility here in this state and all across the South and all over this country. Again, I'm super grateful to share this space with y'all. And so, as I wrap this up, because I got my timing, I want folks to remember that it's instinct and heart and discernment goes a long way, and that the fights that we fight must be worthy of the sacrifices that we're making, and that we is a big we, and not just you as an individual, but everything that comes in into play when we're talking about sacrifice. That care and tenderness is essential to the way we stay free, the way we will continue to build and strengthen our communities, our work, our relationships, our organizations. Care and tenderness. And that even though our work is sacred, we also can't take ourselves so damn seriously. Have a little fun, get some sex, enjoy your life, do some pranks, but make sure we leave some good stuff on the dance floor. And then the last one, self-critique as an essential tool for the way in which we can be accountable to ourselves and to each other, and doing it in a collective practice so we can strengthen our ability to be honest with each other and to struggle around which way forward. But self critique is essential, and that's where it starts. And celebration, because we honor even the 53 people on here right now who decided that they were going to spend their Sunday enjoying and being in conversation. And we hope that folks continue to follow the conversation, to look back over these last few days. Go to Spark RJ Now, excuse me, hashtag Justice Now 2020, and check out at Spark RJ Now on all the social medias to stay abreast of what's going on. And thank y'all so much for this time. I'll pass it back to Monica Ray Simpson, my beloved friend and comrade.
Ah, blessings. Thank you so much, Mary, for blessing us with this Sunday sermon today. I know I needed that in my soul, just deep reminders. I have so much gratitude for your wisdom, for what you offer, for what you walk and show every single day in your own leadership. I know I'm grateful for that. I know that I'm a better leader from being connected to you and being your comrade. I know that our movement is stronger and movements are stronger because you're a part of it. And yeah, we're going to get free. I believe that. Absolutely. Um, Good people, you have heard from Mary Hooks from Southerners on New Ground, also affectionately known as Song. I know that you all got some beautiful gems from that, reminding us of that tenderness that we need and how important that is for our work, for our organizing, for us to be able to just do what we do. To that self critique too. That was just that one important piece for me, Mary. Like that self critique, like making sure you're connecting to folks who can help you grow, and then also that you're looking at yourself and figuring out those things that you need, that I need, we need to continue to do to be our best selves, to be able to stand in our power in all the ways that we can to do this work, and not forgetting to celebrate. You know, that is so important. Our joy is also a huge, beautiful force that continues to fuel our movements and makes us stronger and moves us closer to the liberation that we all want. So again, thank you again, Mary Hooks. Y'all, this is Justice Now 2020. Please continue to feed that hashtag Justice Now 2020. Please continue to @Spark RJ Now as we continue to move the rest of this day. We're almost done, but we still have some amazing things in store for you. At 3 o'clock p.m., we're about to roll into our last panel of the conference. To freedom, Black liberation. I get to be on this panel. I'm really excited, very excited that I get to be on this panel with some really dope and amazing folks like Ashley Woodard Henderson and Tamika Middleton and Shay Johnson. Yo, I mean, it's going to be fire. We're going to have a good time. And this conversation is going to be moderated by Nia Martin Robinson. So get in on that. Come join that panel. We also have the incomparable Loretta Ross, who's going to be rounding things out for us at this conference and talking about that futurism and reproductive justice. So if you haven't heard her analysis and the way that she's talking about this, she just continues to just give us such brilliance and continues to push the work of reproductive justice so far and wide and expansive. So join in on that. And then we're going to be closing things up for you today at 5. So just stay connected with each other, stay tapped in, use your WOVA app, make sure that you're getting all the things that you need. That Black sanctuary space is still available for you. It is our Black autonomous space for Black folks to get what you need to continue to like build our resiliency, our power, and our rest and leisure. So get in on that. Keep loving on your liberation kits. I know that you have at home. So keep going through those kits, keep using those kits. If you haven't already, get into it today because it's the last day of the conference. You should go ahead and get into it. So we're going to go ahead and yes, the Loretta Ross, the Loretta Ross. I'm looking at the chat like, yes, 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 yes. It's going down. So please stay connected today. We're riding to the end, y'all. We're going to ride out on a real high note. So mad love again to Mary Hooks. Mad love to all the folks who presented and done all the things so far. And we got a little bit more coming for you. So we'll see you at 3 o'clock p.m. at the panel. And as we get ready to wrap things down. So see y'all soon. Peace, everybody.